Hello and welcome to what was the Arsenal Bite-Sized podcast and is now the Weekly Canon podcast because let's face it, we were never bite-sized anyway. We yap too much over here. But welcome back, everyone. It's in the middle of, to timestamp it, it's Tuesday evening UK time. It's Tuesday the 2nd of December, 6 p.m. So it's the night before Brentford at home, where Super Mick Arteta has called for all of us in the stadium tomorrow to be animals. So get your best impressions ready. We're obviously going to be reviewing the Chelsea game, looking ahead to Brentford. And to do that with me, delighted to welcome back Simon Collings to the pod. Simon, how's it going?
I'm very good, mate. I'm very good. Are you ready for your part to play tomorrow night? I did think that was interesting from Arteta that I don't know if it's because there's like this weird, obviously these midweek games, it's either 7:30 or 8:15. And obviously fans are used to 8 o'clock, aren't they, for midweek Champions League games? That he repeatedly said 7:30 p.m. about 3 times in his first answer. I felt like that was a very pointed point for him to make sure people knew when the game kicked off.
I was going to ask you this because you were obviously physically there. I was doing the washing while I was listening to it. And so I wasn't watching him, I was listening. Yeah. And I just cracked up because I think the first time you mentioned the animal thing, I feel like the question was from one of the journalists kind of hinting at, like, are you going to rotate? And it kind of went into be there at 7:30, be an animal. I
think sometimes he obviously comes in with a kind of a message he wants to convey. I actually think Arteta's different to other managers who are probably more in that regard. But there is an occasion where he has a message he wants to get across, and it's basically once the team news is out the way, like first question, he was like, right, this is my point, I'm getting it across, like instantly. And fair enough. And I think it's probably makes sense, doesn't it? Because you've had those 3 massive games, quite emotional games. And then Brentford is quite classic, isn't it? So, after the Lord Mayor's show, you've got to get up for it. And as well anyone, the Emirates can sometimes be, when it's a big game, the atmosphere is great. Like the Spurs game, it was absolutely bouncing. Brentford at home, midweek, pretty cold.
Yeah.
It could easily be very different. So I think that was very, very telling from Arteta that he literally got that in as soon as he could.
Yeah, you're bang on with that. I'd argue the Bayern game, the atmosphere was pretty flat until we kind of ran away with it in the second half, in my opinion. And like we're obviously chatting before we went live. You know this, but people that listen may not. I've actually been abroad for a couple of months, right? So like I've got a season ticket. I have done for a few years. So like I have got no problem in admitting I think the atmosphere at the Emirates has been pony. Like my whole supporting life other than that 22-23 season, which I think was heavily influenced by the Ashburton Army and stuff. But then it's kind of petered off again. But then the Spurs game, unfortunately, I wasn't in the country and I was having to listen through the telly. But like you said, it sounded like it was rocking. And I do think there are these games like Brentford where fans, rightly or wrongly, I definitely don't fall into this camp, but fans just kind of want to go watch a routine 3-0 and like just not really open up the lungs. And I'm like, no, that's not a bit of me. I am your animal, Mikel, so you can rely on me. But yeah, like I said, I want to kind of touch on the Chelsea game, look ahead to Brentford, but I feel like this is the first time this season you've been on the pod. Am I right in saying that? Was it last season you came in?
Yeah, I'm trying to think when it was last season, but this is definitely the first time this season.
Yeah, so where's your head at in terms of season so far? I guess both the journalist and the fan.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really impressive, hasn't it? And probably from both sides, journalistically and as a fan, I'm just kind of bullishly confident about Arsenal winning a major trophy. Like I look at it and I keep coming back to it and I keep writing about it, but the depth is just ridiculous. And I look at that depth and I think I just can't see where the holes in this squad that it would fall apart and it would derail what you're trying to do. Gabriel was probably the player I would have picked as the one you wouldn't want to lose, just partly because of his, emotionally what he brings to the team, his leadership, the way he defends. But so far they've done pretty well without him. Rice is another one you could put in there. Zubimendi, I mean, they've coped without Saka, Odegaard, Havertz. So yeah, it's been kind of very seamless, even with the injuries. We haven't had that kind of meltdown. And even covering the club and like seeing Arteta, it's basically like 4 times a week now, because obviously pre-match, post-match. Even he seems a lot more relaxed and kind of calm and he has been on the sidelines until that Spurs game and that Bayern game and that Chelsea game, where he kind of went back to the old Mikel and he was bouncing around. Before then, even on the sideline, he'd have been a bit more kind of relaxed and measured. So, yeah, just, I don't know, just very confident about the whole situation and kind of, yeah, I just really think they're going to do it. I just think everything's there now. I look at that and I can't see where it falls down, which is probably a blessing, probably not the right thing to say, but that's how it just feels looking at it.
Yeah, I think that's it. You can only be honest with how you feel in the moment, right? So, like, if shit goes wrong, people will probably come back and say, "Oh, but you said this." But it's like I feel the exact same with the information we have now. I'm curious on that. Like, how do you think that? How do you think that impacts us in Europe? Like, what do you kind of have us for success in Europe based on all of those factors? Because I was saying to my mates the other day, like, I know you have to think about Bayern, and they were missing, obviously, Musiala. There's a big one that's just escaped my mind. They were missing a player. But I do look around Europe, and I really back us over. I was saying to my friend, over 180 minutes, if everyone's available, I'd just back us to be able to take the game into different scenarios and cover different things and change faces multiple times. I don't think there's many squads in Europe as equipped as us. How do you feel?
No, I agree. I mean, they were so close last season, and if they'd have beaten PSG, I'm sure Arsenal would have won the final, particularly given how Inter played. The only thing I wonder with Europe is kind of whether this squad is ready to be like a two-pronged attack going for two major trophies at the same time, which they haven't really had. Even in old title races, they've sort of got to April, May time and had the eggs in one or the other baskets. Maybe they can do it in one go because they've had so much experience that they could go for two big trophies at once. They've got the squad to. I just wonder whether kind of emotionally and mentally they would be able to have that rhythm of going for the Premier League and the Champions League, given the whole baggage around the Premier League and how long they've waited for it. And then the Champions League, there's the whole baggage around the club have never won it. But squad-wise, definitely, my wonder would be emotionally and mentally if they can do it. But yeah, I agree with you. I think they've got the best squad in Europe. So in terms of depth, starting 11, you can argue, I think, with different teams if you want, but depth-wise, definitely the best. I mean, this is always a hard question people get asked.
I was hoping you weren't going to ask this. What I think is coming.
Premier League or the Champions League?
Well, the fan in me that, like you said, has never seen this club win the Champions League wants to say that. But then the reality of the situation we're in now, which you shouldn't really care about other people's opinions, but I do think if you said to me, we're not going to win the Premier League from here, like forget, like, yeah, okay, you win the Champions League instead, but just in isolation, you're not going to win the Premier League from here. I do think there'll be a heavy narrative on like they bottled it and this and that, just because I think we are most people's favorites from this point. And like you kind of look at the data markets, the betting spreads, all of that, like all of the kind of analytics, and I'd say the informed journalists and analysts are all kind of putting us as favorites. So I think from that perspective, if we don't win the league from here, I think we'll get beaten for it. But am I going to care if we're lifting the big ears? Probably not. So I would say the Champions League personally, but I feel like I'm in the minority on that based on what I'm hearing from a lot of people.
It's a difficult. I think it is quite split on it. I wonder what. I mean, you'd never be able to kind of know or get a true answer, but what Arteta and the players would say in terms of what they'd want to. They'd give.
Ask him.
Yeah, he would say sort of both. I wonder, given everything they've been through kind of emotionally with the Premier League and how close they've been all those years and the fights they've been in, I wonder whether for them it would be the Premier League.
Yeah, I can understand that. Like in interviews and public award acceptance speeches and stuff, I think people like Rice and Saliba, they've all referenced the kind of coming second 3 years in a row quite a lot publicly, right? So yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Just one comment on what you were saying about maybe we don't have it to quite attack on two fronts emotionally. Do you think there's a position that we could get to March, April, and it's a bit like Liverpool last year, where it's like not mathematically done, but subjectively it's like they've got one hand on it? And I guess parallels to PSG, where they can just go hell for leather in the Champions League, knowing that they'll still have enough juice to get over the line domestically.
I mean, it would be nice. It's conceivable as well. Like I think Arsenal are in a position where they could like pull away. If you think where they are now, sort of 5 points clear, and they've had all those injury issues, like if everyone is fit and firing, I think there'll be a real threat. And I've always thought with the squad in terms of its depth, like this period after this November break where you have no more international breaks, it's 2 games a week. You've got Carabao Cup, FA Cup comes in, you've got the last Champions League phase games. Like this is when the games become like mad. Like I think there was a story the other day saying, in theory, the likes of City and Arsenal could have no clear midweeks until sort of March.
Oh wow!
I think for Arsenal they should be okay because if you get in the top 8 of the Champions League, you'll miss that sort of playoff round. But someone like City, if you didn't, you would. And I think this is when you'll see the value of the depth. Personally, like I think we've kind of seen it a bit, but there hasn't really been like need for absolute mass rotation. Whereas now, this is really when Arsenal have the value of it. So they could be in that position, and that would certainly help, wouldn't it? If you kind of had one competition parked and you can fully go for it. A big one for me is the kind of Carabao Cup. Like I know it's obviously absolutely 4th on the priority list, but I think for this group to kind of win something, even just like that, and just have that day at Wembley, get over the line, particularly given its timing in the season, where it is end of February, start of March, I think that would be huge for them to like kick on and go and try and win a massive trophy. So I'm hoping
I think so as well.
They kind of take that seriously, which they have been, and he's put strong teams out. But I think it would be big for this group.
Yeah, and I think if we get lucky with timing, I think you maybe asked Arteta about like Havertz today in the presser. Like, if we get lucky with timing of injuries, again, I was saying to friends, like we are capable of putting out a strong team that's not necessarily air quotes strongest 11.
Yeah,
that should be competitive enough to beat Palace, get into the semis, then again assess where you are, assess where the squad's at, and like you could potentially get to a point where you're having a very competitive team put out in the semi-finals. That's not necessarily your strongest 11. So, I think, I would like to win that for the same reasons you said, to be honest. But yeah, we'll see. I want to move it on to Chelsea and kind of get your takeaways from that. Later on, we'll obviously preview the Brentford game. We'll have a look at the lineups. Definitely want to have some conversations around rotation and the use of the squad. But I guess the kind of takeaway from Chelsea, like always in these kind of games, I feel like there's a big spectrum. There's fans on one end of it thinking it's disaster, 2 points dropped. There's fans on the other end of the spectrum, like it's a really good point away at Stamford Bridge. They're a very strong outfit. Where do you kind of fit on that spectrum, and what's your takeaways from Sunday?
I was pretty mixed on it. I mean, before the game, I kind of said, given once you'd seen the teams, you're missing both your centre backs, your captain's on the bench. You've not got a recognised number 9 as good as Merino's been. I think a draw wouldn't have been a bad result, particularly given Chelsea are probably maybe the second or probably the third best contenders for the title outside Arsenal and City. And to go there and get a point wouldn't be a bad result. I guess probably in game when Caicedo gets sent off, you then think, right, okay, here we go. What an opportunity this is. So I think it is a bit of a missed opportunity, but in the kind of context of the wider week, when you look at what they've come into with Bayern Munich and Spurs, you look at the injuries, you look at what it actually did to the table in terms of, you've got a 5-point lead. I don't think it was a bad result. And also, I don't think Arsenal played well enough to win.
I was going to ask you on that specifically. So, like, Caicedo's red card was in the 38th minute. I get on that. Did you have any... Was it clear to you? Do you have any strong opinions?
I thought it was like a bad tackle. And then there was a moment where they were down for quite a bit. And then the press box at Stamford Bridge is quite good because it's literally right behind the dugouts.
Right.
And I was on the left of it. So we were like 2-3 rows from the Arsenal dugout. And then you could obviously tell when they had seen the replay because they all just like popped up. Like, all the back running around and like sort of scrambling to the fourth official. And it was all like, oh, okay. And then we all looked at the replay on the screen, the press box, and we were like, oh, that's quite bad. And then it was taking ages. And I was sat near one of the like PGM Oil sort of officials there. And he was like, basically, VAR can't intervene until the refs give an on-field decision. So they were waiting for Anthony Taylor to give the yellow, and then it got reviewed. And for me, it was a red card. Like I don't think he's gone to do him. or injure him or be malicious. I think he's just late and he's going so quick that it makes it excessive force. Like I think if he wasn't traveling at that speed, he maybe gets away with it, but he is like charging in there. You could argue it's reckless. I don't feel like he's gone to injure Merino. When you saw the replay, it was like he's high, he's late, he's not really in control. I think he had to go. I mean, I don't know about you watching it, but I'm watching that game and I was like, someone's getting sent off it.
Oh, 100%. I was just trying to find the stats while you were talking. So it was Zubamendi, Cucurella, Mosquera, and Calafiori that were all booked prior to that red card, and there were definitely a couple others that were contentious.
The Zubi one as well was so early. I think
which one? Sorry,
the Zubamendi one. I think it was 5 minutes in.
5 minutes in, yeah.
Yeah, and I just kind of felt. Obviously, I can see why he's done it because he's trying to sort of assert some authority on the game. But I just felt like once you've booked him for that, you're kind of opening yourself up that almost everything is a booking. There's going to be so many bookings because that is the benchmark in the game. You're like, right, this is it. Whereas for me, in a derby, I'd be like, try and let it flow a bit and try and appreciate there's going to be a lot of emotion, a lot of energy. And it just felt like once that booking was made, I was a bit like, okay, that's what this game's going to be like.
Yeah, because I thought he was going to go with what you were just kind of suggesting there, because there was one tackle on Saka very early on from Cucurella. I think
yeah.
And I think
as well,
and when he let that go, I was like, okay, do you know what? If he's gonna play this the way you've just said, I can understand it. Then I see Zubamendi getting booked 3 minutes later, and I'm thinking, oh, what's happening here? But I guess what I wanted to ask you was, what did you make? I know you kind of said it in terms of Arsenal didn't play well enough to kind of get the 3 points, but why do you think that was prior to the red card? And then what do you put that down to, and how do you think they approached it after Caicedo's red? Because when the red happened, in my head, I'm thinking, get to halftime, bring on maybe an Odegaard, or get one of the back four off that's on a yellow, try stabilize the game. And I felt confident until I saw what we did. So what do you put that down to?
I think credit to Chelsea in the sort of first instance I thought their game plan was pretty good. I thought they pressed hard, they worked hard, they were physical, which I think Sunderland have shown is a good way to try and get at Arsenal as much as you can, particularly when they're missing people like Gabriel Saliba. So I think Chelsea deserve credit for that. Part of it, Arsenal, I think they looked a bit like emotionally and physically fatigued, just looked a little bit off it. The passing wasn't that great, wasn't as slick as they have been. In terms of when the red card happened, I mean, the change I thought, yeah, get one of the back four off, which he did, and just kind of minimise the risk of a red card there. Agreed with you on Odegaard, and he made the changes I probably would. Like I think in the past we've had games this season, maybe the Liverpool game, the first half of the City game, where there's been big matches and you can say, oh, he hasn't really gone for it. But I think he went for it with his changes here. He brings on Odegaard, he pushes Rice to number 6, he brings on Madueke, he brings on Gyökeres. And for me, I thought a big issue was that those 3 attacking subs were all players coming back from injury. And it just felt like they weren't quite sharp. They weren't quite on the same wavelength. They were just missing a little bit.
It's interesting because when Odegaard first came on, I was saying to my mates, I really liked that he just did exactly what he does. He's going to come on, get a high volume of touches, even if it's not necessarily threatening. But I thought that's what the game needed. It was just him getting on the ball in the middle in the first phase, popping it around. And then he kind of disappeared a little bit. And then Madueke came on. He didn't look great. But I'm not really concerned about him. I thought he looked great before his injury. And like you say, I think a lot of this, was people coming back from fitness. It's easy to forget. Martinelli, I think, was this his first start post-injury as well?
Could well have been, yeah. I think it was.
And then Gyökeres obviously comes. I think my biggest frustration was, and again, I'm with you, I think this is just credit to Chelsea, to be honest. I don't doubt that we tried to go for it. I think Chelsea were fantastic at tactically how they set up to nullify us, and then the kind of ugly side of the game of really slowing it, like lots of restarts, making it an ugly game. And to give them credit, they didn't really just park the bus either. Like I don't know what you thought about this, but I thought the Delap and Garnacho subs were really good. I think Garnacho is a more defensive winger than Esteval, but obviously more experienced and has really good threat going forward. And Delap, I don't know if you remember this against Ipswich last year. He was a pain in the beep, and he was particularly going for Miles Lewis Skelly. But again, he's more of a beep than João Pedro, and I think I quite liked those subs from. I could see what he was trying to do. So I thought
they were good moves, I think. And I mean, Chelsea have experience of red cards this season and playing with 10 men. And I did the game. I was covering for a colleague, so I did the game at Old Trafford, the United game, where they went down to 10 men.
I didn't actually see that game.
Inside 5 minutes. Yeah, Sanchez got sent off. And I think Maresca got it wrong that day, where he had an issue where he took off Palmer because he was injured. And then he took off Estevao or Neto. And he essentially left the team without any kind of runners or out balls. And I looked at the team, obviously against Arsenal. And as you say, I really like Garnacho. I think he's a good hard worker. And it's the same with Neto. I think Neto works so hard for that Chelsea team. And they're really good carriers of the ball. Like, they could basically get Chelsea up the pitch quickly. And when they played it, I was thinking back to that United game. And I was like, oh, you got that. They got it almost very wrong that day. And I think Maresca, one of the things he'd said was trying to, himself as a coach better with 10 men. But I liked the way they kind of set up, where you had your Delap, Neto, Garnacho, like 3 runners. You could basically hit Arsenal on the counter. And I did, in fairness to them, because I wondered if they would just park the bus and go like, right, we'll just try and take a point.
That's what I thought as well.
Didn't really. And I mean, actually, the last 20 minutes was a bit basketball matchy. Like, it was quite an open game, which suited Arsenal in some respects, but also Chelsea. And they played. I think they played well, Chelsea. If you speak to a lot of people who cover Chelsea, they were saying that was quite a big performance from them.
I think they were
taking positives from that.
Yeah, I think they were good value for the draw. Like, I never like to credit them as a football club, but I thought they were very good, to be honest, and did what you need to do. Just a couple more questions before we kind of look ahead to Brentford. The goal, obviously, for Chelsea comes from a set piece. Is it too lazy to say that's the absence of both of our centre-backs? And how do you think Mosquera and Hincapié did? Obviously, we've seen them both individually throughout the season. Mosquera more earlier on, but this was the first Premier League start for them as a duo. So how did you think they got on? And do you think that goal was down to the absence of the main two, or is that too lazy?
I mean, it would help having them. I mean, Gabriel, as much as he's attacking set pieces, defensive one, he is a big threat as well. It was a good set piece, I think. I mean, it's just quite an Arsenal set piece, like back post to near post run, good delivery. I think it's difficult for the keeper with that one because it's there. It's one you want to go and get. So I think credit goes to that. I think, I mean, obviously it would help having Gabriel Saliba. Timing of it probably is not, early in the half. Maybe they're not quite as set and organised as they would normally be. But overall, I thought Hincapié and Mosquera did pretty well.
Hincapié, I agree. I don't know how to describe him, but he's very front-footed, isn't he? He's very aggressive. Yeah. I think that will be great. I think there'll be moments where he maybe Christian Romero's himself a little bit, and but hopefully 9 times out of 10 it's not an issue.
Well, there was a tweet. I'll dig it up, which
I think I know exactly what you're referring
to. Which I was sending around to everyone, which I think was mentioned on
the dog one,
the Arsecast this week. Yeah, which I think perfectly. I mean, it's a perfect description in my opinion. Which was someone said, Great tackle, but Hincapié makes me nervous. It feels like watching a dog drive your car perfectly. They're driving perfectly, but they're still a dog.
Yeah.
That is like better than anything I could write. So
stick that in your next article.
Yeah. And he is someone else was saying to me that he reminds him of like Lisandro Martinez, which I think is not a bad comparison. For me, he reminds me a bit of Gabriel when he first came. Very sort of passionate, excitable, like the ball's there, I want to go and win it. And Gabriel still defends like that, but he's matured and measured his game and cut out a lot of errors. I think Hincapié is very similar in style, and that's why when Gabriel got injured, he was the one I always thought Arteta would go with, because I felt like he was like. And Arteta, when he spoke about Hincapié in press conferences, like we hadn't really seen him play, and he was so gushing about him, like he's a warrior, and he was really bigging him up. So I kind of thought when he gets an opportunity, he's going to play this guy. So I think he's Mosquera in the same way, kind of suits Saliba, similar style, good recovery defender, quite composed. He, for me, felt a little bit shaky early on. Probably didn't help that João Pedro charged into him in the first second and smashed him over. But both of them, I thought, grew into the game and did well. And just like a big tick off for both of them, like to get through a game like that, which they probably wouldn't have played ordinarily. They've now played a massive London derby in a sort of title rival game, got through it, had a good performance. Mosquera's also got, he's got Anfield under his belt. Playing these sort of big games is really, really helpful. And it would make me not rush to get. I mean, Saliba sounds like he's close, but I wouldn't be rushing after watching that and thinking, oh God, you've got to get this guy back.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the whole point about the depth, right? I think, like, sure, you obviously want your Gabriel and Saliba available Chelsea away, but I wouldn't say I felt fine about Hincapié and Mosquera, but I definitely wasn't concerned. Like, I mean, I don't like the word backups, but like as a backup pairing, I mean, that's up there in the Premier League for some of the other starting pairs. So it's it's really, really encouraging.
I mean, I would have Hincapié and Mosquera over Fofana and Chalobah. So
yeah, me too. Yeah, I would as well. But I'm really intrigued by that because where you just said, and you're right, like Arteta was really gushing about Hincapié when he wasn't available. If everyone's fit and available, do you think he's there to take minutes from Big Gabby? Do you think he's there to play as a left back? Or is it just the case of we need to really get away from this idea that people have fixed positions and he is just going to go for different options in different games?
I was originally told that he was sort of a left back, was mainly where he was going to play.
That's what I thought.
And which is interesting because his preferred position is centre back. So
is that a centre back in a back three, or because he obviously did that a lot with
Liverpool? Both. He's always said he likes playing centre back and like carrying the ball out. So that was where I think he wanted to play, but I was always told he was going to try and come in at left back. And I think possibly Calafiori's performances at left back weren't necessarily like planned, and he's just been so good. It's kind of like, oh, we're just going to leave him there. Like, I don't know if that was definitely the idea coming into this season that he would be the starting left back every week, but he's been so good that it's kind of stayed there. I think when everyone's fit, it's going to be so hard to displace Big Gabby that I think left back's where he'll try and get in. But a genuine option to rotate now. And I think we'll see him develop quite a lot this season. I feel like the raw ingredients are there. It just probably needs a bit of, harnessing and sort of tidying up around the edges.
Yeah, and I really like the comparison to Big Gabby, but the one thing that's going for Hincapié, like the amount of football at the top level he's got under his belt at however old he is. I think he's 24.
23, 24, yeah.
Yeah, like we've got a gem there to be working with. But yeah, I want to kind of move it on to Brentford now. You obviously touched on the ability to rotate and stuff. We mentioned a few of the subs that came on Sunday. We've got Brentford at home tomorrow. We've got Aston Villa away Saturday afternoon. Is it then Club Brugge midweek next week?
Wednesday night.
Yeah. And I think in the Champions League to guarantee top 2, we probably need 7 points from the remaining 9. Is that even too much?
The top 2, yeah. I mean, to get top 8, you probably need, like, I think last season it was like 16, 17 points. So, I mean, that's pretty much done, really. Given the 3 games left, you've got Bruges, Inter Milan, and Karat Almaty at home.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, the Bruges game for me, I mean, I have to do a predicted 11 for work as part of the sort of preview stuff around the game. And I've only got him making 2 changes.
Is that for the Bruges game or for tomorrow against Brentford?
Tomorrow, which I think is a lot less than I would make, and I think is a lot less than people would like him to make.
No, so I agree.
I think he won't rotate. He always goes stronger than you think, and I think he'll be looking at this game, kind of like how he said in his first answer, where he was, stressing emotion and animals and getting everyone up for it. And I think he'll be looking at that team thinking, I've kind of got to go strong here, just because I cannot allow any sort of flatness around this team.
I agree. I want to ask you what those 2 changes are in a bit, but I want to hold that for now because, again, on this social media, WhatsApp groups I'm in, I think there's a lot of conversation around Jurriën Timber needs a rest. Bring in Ben White. reintegrate Odegaard, give Eze a rest, bring in Gyökeres, and it's like I don't remember a Premier League game where he's done more than 3 changes. I'm sure there is one. There's one crystal clear in my head from maybe 2 seasons ago where we played Luton at home and he made 5 changes or something. I remember Smith Rowe came in, but it wasn't a fluid performance. But I agree, he just doesn't really do it. But the question I've got is, Miles, in my opinion, against Bayern struggled because he was cold, not because he's cold in the sense of like just hasn't had that much rhythm and momentum in games. He then didn't look amazing against Chelsea, in my opinion, but there are people like Ben White that do need minutes. There are people like Gyökeres, Odegaard, Martinelli, Madueke coming back that need to be reintegrated. So I guess in my head, the question I'm asking is, how do you get that balance in a game like Brentford where 3 points are a must? It maybe is an opportunity to rest, rotate a few, but the margin for error is very slight that if you push over too many, you're compromising your optimal relationships, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen more in the Carabao Cup, haven't we? Like, I think of that Brighton game, I think it was 9, 10 changes.
Yeah.
You saw for like 45 minutes, you're like, oh, this team don't really know. Look like they met in the car park a bit, like kind of, and then they found their groove and got going. So I think you can disrupt things with too many changes. But there are, I agree with you a lot on Lewis Skelly. Like, he to me plays like someone who's just like rusty and lacking sharpness. I don't have massive concerns over him. I kind of wonder for tomorrow. Keep looking at that Michael Kone long throw and thinking,
that's his scouting mission, isn't it? That's his audition for us.
Yeah, I keep thinking like, I kind of want Calafiori in my defence if I'm having long throws. I don't know if I want Miles in the team for that. So yeah, it's a difficult balancing act, but because these players are only going to get more cold, as you put it, unless they start playing. I just think when I look at this run of games, this like next 4, if you have it, because there's then a week's run up into Everton. I look at it and think you've got Brentford at home, Villa away is probably the biggest one. Bruges away, I feel like you could rest, and even Wolves at home, I feel like would be nice. And this Brentford one out of the league games, other than the Villa one, I think it's just one I would be wary about rotating in. But yeah, difficult.
No, I
think a lot of fans will be expecting like 5, 6 changes, would be my guess. If you sat in the pub with someone having a pint, they would be like, rest Rice, rest Saka.
Yeah. I'm very intrigued to see what your 2 changes are, because I think very similar. But again, what I almost look at the block of 4, and again, I was saying to a mate, like someone like Ethan Nwaneri, he's as cold as they come right now. Ben White, I almost look at it as like, forget where he should start, just over the course of Brentford, maybe less, not so much Villa, but Brentford, Bruges, Wolves. Can he get 30 to 60 to 90 minutes over the course of the 3 games, whether that's 60 against Bruges, 30 against Wolves, or vice versa? And someone like Ben White, Nwaneri, reintegrating Gyökeres, like I think Merino will start again tomorrow, and Gyökeres will maybe come off the bench, hopefully getting ready for Saturday against Villa. But yeah, I kind of look at it like that as well. I think Brentford Villa is the pair that I don't think we want to be chancing too much in terms of fluidity. You need to be tip top. Bruges, I'm hoping we arrive into that. We hopefully have people feeling a bit more rested, reintegrated. Who knows, may have a surprise back or 2, and then approach Wolves accordingly. But go on. The 2 changes that you're predicting to the 11, what are they?
Yeah, I mean, I could easily just have 1 change, like quite possibly. The only one I feel like will happen is I think Odegaard will start
instead of
Eze. But I could easily see Eze moving left and playing there. But I think he's played a lot. And then the other one I've got Madueke left. But again, I could see Martinelli playing there instead. I just think Odegaard, this will be. He's had 2 games off the bench, home game. When you talk about, lifting the tempo and kind of making sure the standards are set, I think bringing your captain into the starting 11 is probably about as good a way as you can do that. So I feel sure he'll play. But beyond that, Yeah, I've gone for Madueke on the left, but the rest of the team I think will stay the same.
How close do you think in Mikel's head he is to starting Ben White over Timber tomorrow? Because that, again, in the fantasy football world, that's a big conversation, right?
I just feel like I had a look. I had a look today when I was doing the team. White's not started a league game since the opening league game of the season.
Yeah.
And the one I think his last start was the Brighton game in the Carabao, and even that one he didn't play 90 minutes. And I think everyone thought the Prague game, which came in between before the Sunderland game, and it was after, I can't remember the league game it was before it, but it came in a tight block of games, and everyone assumed, right, he'll play Slavia Prague away, and he played Timber again. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, like it's a really weird one, Ben White. I don't really know what's going on, to be brutally honest with you. Like
I think my opinion is
out of favour and not playing.
I think he's maybe just physically completely
it's a real strange one. But I feel like I've had fantasy football managers a few weeks ago when they messaged me like, I'm really worried about that Brentford game, and I was like, I would buy Timber anyway because he's so good for long term. But even then, for that Brentford game, I'd be like, you might just play Timber because he loves Timber, like loves him. He's been that good. And he's not been trusting White. Like he's just not been playing him. And I think now when you're missing your two centre-backs, even more, he might think, you know what, I want to keep my first choice fullbacks because I'm playing my quote-unquote backups in the middle. Calafiori, I would, if it wasn't a Brentford team so good from set pieces and long throws, I would probably be tempted to play Miles. But I generally think that Coyote throw is such a weapon. I'd have Calafiori given he's 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah, me too.
Timber again for that is very good aerially.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the side, like Zubimendi came off early.
So did Calafiori.
Yeah, so did Rice openly said, I think the other week, that he literally prefers playing twice a week and having the minutes. And he's the only player who's played in every game in some capacity. He's always come on or played. Odegaard, comes in. Saka, again, this is another one in the FPL community. Is it like, Saka's going to be benched? He could be. I would be really surprised. Like,
me too.
I can't think of many Premier League games where Saka's been like fit and not coming back from injury, where he's been on the bench. Like maybe that Luton game, possibly. It'd be worth checking that if he was. But other than that, like he'll just play it, and maybe 60, 65 minutes, like against Bayern where he took him off. I think he'd rather do that. Gyökeres for Merino, I could see that. I think Moreno's been so good. I think he is physically very, durable. And again, I think probably you'd maybe give Gyökeres sort of half an hour and get him ready to start at Villa Park.
The reason I think Merino will get the nod again is on Sunday, I was screaming out for Gyökeres for a while, just like especially when they went down to 10 men. That's what I was screaming for, like just get a focal point up there to kind of, and I think Arteta would have done that. And I just think he brought him on the 72nd minute. And I do think there was an element of like, how much can he handle at the minute? So I think there's maybe another sub appearance for him trying to get, because Aston Villa away, that feels like a Gyökeres game, running in the channels more than a Merino game, in my opinion. So I think it's maybe building him up to
line on there, I think, as well.
Exactly, yeah. So that's like a Martinelli Gyökeres sort of thing. So I agree on that. And I think
that's the thing I'd say with like Merino Odegaard, I don't know if would work as well as Gyökeres Odegaard, because I think Merino we've seen dropping deep has been his kind of best trait recently, and Odegaard's not like an Eze where he wants to sort of get beyond.
Yeah, that's true.
Line. So that we must like to him, but I mean Merino as well is another one who's aerially so good, isn't he? And I think defensively maybe you want that in the team. We'll probably do all this, and then tomorrow night there'll be like 6 changes.
Yeah,
idiot. But
Kepa's coming in for Raya.
Yeah, that will be quite interesting if the team does come out and he's made like 6 changes. I think that will be a proper show of his belief in the squad and the depth. Because as you say, it's not something he very rarely does. He had the luxury that first title race season where they were in the Europa League and he made like 10 changes on a Thursday and then swapped the team back for the Sunday. But in this format where they've been Champions League, Premier League, he hasn't done that kind of level of rotation. And if he does on Wednesday, fair play, because I think that will be a real change from seasons gone by.
Yeah, no, agree. I think the Zubimendi point you made is a good one as well. Because again, I've seen a lot of people saying Norgard and the whole against his old team, but I think Zubimendi going off in the 57th minute on Sunday just kind of reaffirms he'll play again. I think he is so important to everything we're trying to do. The Madueke on the left wing, what do you put that down to? Because I agree, and I don't know if it's maybe so from my perspective, I think he obviously said in the presser today, Trossard's days away. And I remember, was it the Leeds game where he played Madueke off the left, and it's kind of that anticipation of a low block. He brought him on against 10 men Chelsea. Is it that angle that you're kind of looking at it from?
I always felt like Madueke was like a low block player. Like he's good on one-on-ones, loves getting shots off, very direct. And I always feel like games like this at home, like the Leeds game before that, I sort of said, I think Madueke will start and make his debut because this is literally the game you bought him for, this kind of match. And Brentford for me is similar opportunity because it's not going to be an open spaces game, which is what Martinelli wants, which is probably why Chelsea made sense because it should really be that kind of environment. And I would think Villa on Saturday, I would think the same thing. That could be a Martinelli game because you should have the space to exploit. But when those teams are sat deep, I think you need a bit of that kind of willingness to try something, a bit maverick, a bit flair. So that's why I think Madueke off the left could work. Also stretches the other team as well, I think, when he's there. I think gives you proper width on that side. He's been good, and I think he wasn't great at Chelsea, I don't think. He came in for a bit of stick from the fans. Chelsea players were getting into him as well.
That surprised me, yeah.
So maybe, that was a bit difficult environment. But the Emirates, he's actually been very good.
Well, and Bayern, he was brilliant, wasn't he?
Yeah, and you think the City game before he came off, I think he does really enjoy kind of playing there, and he feeds off the fans. So I would have him in there, and I think given what Arsenal could come up against, I think he could be a good weapon in that.
Yeah, agree. A couple more questions before we get into score predictions. This is something I don't know if in your years of covering Arsenal, especially while Arteta's there, you've learned anything on this. Calafiori's on 4 yellows, right? And I agree from the kind of tactical matchups. I think he makes the most sense. Do you we've seen examples of players like that where I think Rice in the Champions League was maybe on a yellow and was going to miss something. Like, do you think it's something that Arteta considers when picking an 11 in terms of what the player may miss if they get a yellow card? Or because I feel like there was.
Sorry, go on. He does.
Okay.
Yeah, like the one that's sticking out in my mind is PSV, the second leg of the last 16 game, when he did make a lot of changes for that. Speaking of changes, like Zinchenko was playing midfield and stuff, but he brought on Martinelli and Timber for like 20 minutes, and they were both on yellow cards, and they had missed the first leg of the quarterfinal.
That answers the question. Then
he brought them both off the bench, and everyone was like, "What on earth? Like, was he?" And I don't know. Yeah, I can remember Merino all those years ago when getting players to be booked and miss certain games for this stuff. I feel like he doesn't think about that. He's kind of so in the moment of that game, which is maybe a bit unlike Arteta as you'd think. But that one sticks in my mind where those two came off the bench, and I was like, "What is he doing here? Like, this is mad." And even what was the game before? Was it Prague before Bayern Munich?
That's what. Yeah, I think it was that one when Rice.
That's one where Rice played, and everyone was sort of saying, "Oh, look, don't play Rice because they've got Bayern next. He'll miss the Bayern game." And he's like, "Nah, just play Rice for 90 minutes, or whatever." Like,
well, and that's why I was interested in your opinion because I remember his presser around that when he was asked. He was basically like, "It's football. Like you can get a red card." I'm paraphrasing here, but he kind of like hinted at the idea that like you could miss a game through anything. It's football, sort of thing. Yeah, so that's why I was curious on what you thought.
I wonder whether it's almost like you're kind of worrying about something that's not happened and might never happen. You know what I mean? Like, and also kind of going to Rice and being like, "I'm not going to play you because I'm worried you're going to get booked." He'll be like, "What? Just play me." Like, just put me in the team. And I think also there are players, Rice being someone who could kind of manage it. I think he did in the Champions League last season. I feel like he had a few games where he had to kind of walk the tightrope a bit. But I've seen people with Calafiori this week obviously saying, we want him at Villa, so maybe don't play him against Brentford. But from what we've seen historically from Mikel, I think he will not take that into consideration for selection, and he'll pick what he thinks is the best team.
Yeah, no, me too. So just to recap, your predicted 11 was Raya, Timber, Mosquera, Hincapié, Calafiori, Zubamendi, Rice, Odegaard, Saka, Merino,
Yeah.
and Madueke.
Yeah.
Okay. Mine is the same.
Nice.
Yeah, mine is the exact same actually. Yeah. So yeah,
We'll
cue the mass meltdown.
Yeah, we'll get there tomorrow. It'll be Dowman. Yeah.
Right, onto the fun stuff then. So score predictions. So I think style of play is one thing before we get into it. Actually, like we kind of hinted a few times at like the Coyotes long throw. We kind of spoke about is physicality the blueprint to maybe stop us with the Sunderland Chelsea. Is that the way you see Brentford approaching the game tomorrow? And then if it's not, what is and how do you see the flow of the game and what do you see the score?
Yeah, I've not seen loads of Brentford. I've watched like bits and pieces. They've seemed like quite a fairly like physical side. I mean, Thiago up front, I think, is a great focal point for them.
He's on fire, isn't he? I know there's a few pens in there, but my God.
And then I think what they've then got around him is like proper pace. And when you've got someone like Henderson deep, you know, great at playing the ball long. A lot of their goals, like I remember that United game, kind of taking advantage of a high line and playing quick and playing long. Got Atara with lots of plays, Sade lots of plays. Thiago is no slouch himself. So I imagine that'll be their setup, try and make difficult for Arsenal frustrate and then hit them on the counter. I mean, Arsenal got lots of pace at the back, but I think that'll be a proper test for it. And yes, set pieces will be a big thing, I think, for them. That long throw is comfortably the best long throw I've seen in probably since Rory Delap. That long throw, it's so good, like it's an absolute cannon. And that will be a weapon for them. But they're a good side, Brentford. I think they start of the season. I was slightly worried about them.
I had them in my predictions go down, to be honest. So,
but they kind of solidified themselves quite quickly, and they got a quite solid structure, decent keeper, good defense. I think Henderson, in the middle of the park, does a good job for them. So, yeah, it's probably going to be one of those classic games where you can have a lot of the ball and you've got to try and open them up, which is not an easy thing to do, as we've seen.
And go on, you're trying to escape it. If you had to,
I'm going to go for 2-0 to Arsenal.
Okay,
they're due a clean sheet. It's been like 2 games or something, 3 games.
Yes, I've got similar. I've got 2-1 Arsenal. I can't explain why. I just feel like they'll be No, I think I can explain why. It's what you just said. They've got runners. They've got runners. They've got the ability to put us in uncomfortable zones, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and I think they will be able to like land a few jabs on us. So unfortunately, I think they will get something. But I think this will be a painful watch. By the way, like I think they will do very well at disrupting the game. No criticism of them, just what we've seen works well and is what usually annoys us. So I think they'll be very good at disrupting the game, making it a bit ugly, limiting the in-play time, as Arteta referenced today. So I think we'll have enough to score, but I don't think he's going to get the animalistic crowd he wants tomorrow. I think there'll be a few anxious groaning. So if you are going, bring it loud and proud as always. But yeah, I'm going 2-1 to the Arsenal. I hope you're right though, because 2-0 sounds like it'll be a lot more comfortable. Is there anything else that you'd like to kind of talk about or mention that you think I may have missed?
I don't think so. No. Nice. It's been enjoyable. Chat. It's been nice to come on with the team doing so well as well.
Yeah, I'll see you at the quadruple parade later in the season.
Yeah.
No, thanks as always. It's been obviously, like you said, it was the first time this season, and it's going really, really well. I do still believe if we can get a squad that's fully fit, I still believe there's a level to go up on this. And again, when I was in the pub with my friend, we were discussing like who misses out in the match day squad when everyone's fit. Like that's going to be really interesting. That
will be seriously like. I mean, they've only had it kind of once this season. I think it was Newcastle away where Ethan missed out. That's for like the only time you've had a kind of high profile-ish player miss. But you think when when Kai's back, when Leo's back, Saliba's back, Big Gabby, that's 4 more.
Yeah.
Trying to get on
Jesus as well.
Trying to get into that bit, Jesus, like it's going to be really tough. I mean, the Champions League's obviously easier because you can have that 12-man bench. But it's going to be tough. I mean, Ethan, it was interesting. I thought Arteta last week was obviously talking about Jesus played that friendly behind closed doors, but he said he literally asked to play because he wanted minutes.
I know I said I was going to wrap this up, but on Ethan, do you have any concerns over him, like his place in the squad? Do you think this is where he is good within his development? Because again, he's quite a big topic.
Yeah, I'm slightly worried just because of Eze being there. I feel like we all watched pre-season and Ethan played quite a bit, didn't he? In that Odegaard role, and it felt like, oh, there you go. You are the backup to Odegaard, and now it feels like he's the third choice to Odegaard. And even on the right, last season he was kind of the backup to Bukayo, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And now he's the third choice there behind Noni and Bukayo. So I think it is a bit of a difficult situation for him. He's 18, so I wouldn't be kind of panicking around it. I do wonder beyond this season, when you get to the summer, they might look at it and think, how many minutes has he played? Could he benefit from going on loan or something like that? But yeah, I would be more. There's a lot of talk around Miles. There's been around Miles and minutes and playing up. I'm more worried about Ethan because I kind of feel like his path is more blocked. Like in his 2 positions that he's played for Arsenal, on the right wing or the right number 8, it feels like he's third choice, which is difficult.
Yeah, agree.
Beyond those Carabao Cup games, and maybe some dead rubber Champions League phase games, I can't see where he really plays.
Yeah, I agree. And it feels like there have been games where Arteta has proactively chosen Miles, whereas with Ethan, it does feel like it's typically if other people are unavailable.
Yeah.
So, yeah, one to watch. I'll leave it there. But yeah, thanks as always, mate. It was good to have you back on. Uncle Mike will be back with me on Fridays, back from his holidays. So we'll be live probably Friday 2-3 o'clock, typically around Arteta's presser, to review Brentford and preview Aston Villa. Fingers crossed. We had another 3 point. I say another. We didn't get 3 points on the weekend. So hopefully we get 3 points tomorrow. And we can keep on going. Thanks again, Simon.
Cheers, mate.
Arsenal.
Thanks, mate.